Welcome to Part 3 of our series on the essence of classical mechanics. In Part 2, we saw how constraints reduce the true degrees of freedom of a system and why generalized coordinates Q allow us to skip tracking unknown constraint forces entirely. Now, we face the big question: how do we actually build the equations of motion using these generalized coordinates? The traditional Newtonian answer F equals ma fails us here because constraint forces don't disappear on their own in Newton's vector equations. To eliminate them mathematically, analytical mechanics turns to two revolutionary ideas: D'Alembert's principle of virtual work and Hamilton's principle of least action. Let's start with D'Alembert's principle. In statics, if a system is in equilibrium, the vector sum of all applied forces acting on it must equal zero. But what if a system is constrained? Imagine a force pushing a bead along a frictionless wire. The wire exerts a normal constraint force, holding the bead to the curve. If we give the bead an imaginary, instantaneous displacement along the wire, what we call a virtual displacement, delta r, the constraint force does zero work. Why? Because constraint forces act perpendicular to the allowed path of motion. D'Alembert took this idea and applied it to moving systems by introducing an extra concept called the inertial force, minus m times acceleration. He rewrote Newton's second law as a zero-sum equation. The applied force minus mass times acceleration, dot virtual displacement, equals zero. Notice what this does. Because virtual displacements are chosen to respect the physical constraints, all unknown constraint forces drop out of the math automatically. We are left only with applied forces and kinetic energy. D'Alembert didn't discover new physical forces, but he revolutionized classical mechanics by framing accelerating systems as static equilibria using inertial forces, ma, and showing that constraint forces perform zero work during virtual displacements, directly paving the way for Lagrangian dynamics. When you convert D'Alembert's principle into generalized coordinates, it yields a single, beautiful scalar function, the Lagrangian, L, defined as kinetic energy T minus potential energy V. L equals T minus V. This leads directly to the second foundation of Lagrangian dynamics, Hamilton's principle. Hamilton took D'Alembert's differential view and turned it into an elegant integral view. He defined a quantity called action S, which is the time integral of the Lagrangian from an initial time t1 to a final time t2. Action S equals the integral from t1 to t2 of L dt. Hamilton's principle states that, out of all conceivable paths a system could take through configuration space between two fixed points in time, nature selects the single path that makes the action stationary. Mathematically, the variation of the action, delta S, must equal zero. Applying the calculus of variations to delta S equals zero yields the famous Euler Lagrange equations for each generalized coordinate q sub I. The total time derivative of the partial derivative of L with respect to q sub I minus the partial derivative of L with respect to q sub I equals zero. To see how effortless this framework is compared to Newton's vector math, let's look at three classic examples. 1. The simple harmonic oscillator. Consider a mass m attached to a spring with spring constant k, moving along a line. Our single generalized coordinate is position x. The kinetic energy T is 1/2 m times x dot squared. The potential energy V is 1/2 k times x squared. The Lagrangian L is T minus V, which equals 1/2 m x dot squared minus 1/2 k x squared. Now apply the Euler Lagrange equation. The partial derivative of L with respect to x gives m times x dot. Its total time derivative gives m times x double dot. The partial derivative of L with respect to x gives minus k times x. Putting them together, m times x doubled minus negative kx equals 0, which simplifies to mx doubled plus kx equals 0. Without drawing a single vector diagram, we instantly recover the harmonic oscillator equation. 2. The simple pendulum on cider a mass m on a rigid rod of length L swinging under gravity. Our generalized coordinate is the angle theta. The speed of the mass is L times theta dot. Kinetic energy T is 1/2 m times L squared times theta dot squared. Potential energy V, measured from the bottom pivot, is m times g times L, times, open parenthesis, 1 minus cosine theta, close parenthesis. The Lagrangian L is 1/2 m L squared theta dot squared minus mg L times 1 minus cosine theta. Apply the Euler Lagrange equation for theta. The partial with respect to theta dot is ml squared theta dot. Its time derivative is ml squared theta double dot. The partial with respect to theta is minus mgl sine theta. Subtracting the two yields, ml squared theta double plus mgl sine theta equals 0. Dividing by ml squared gives theta doubled plus g over L times sine theta equals 0. To recap, in physical three-dimensional space, a swinging pendulum traces a simple spatial arc. However, in analytical mechanics, we map this motion inside configuration space, where the system's entire state is represented by a single point. For a pendulum of fixed length L, the configuration space is one-dimensional, parameterized entirely by the angle theta. As time advances, this state point traces out a smooth sinusoidal path on a plot of theta versus time t. Out of an infinite number of conceivable curves connecting the initial and final states, nature selects the single trajectory where the action integral S is stationary. When real-world non-conservative forces like friction or air resistance enter the picture, energy is dissipated, but the scalar framework of Lagrangian dynamics remains completely intact. Through D'Alembert's principle, non-conservative effects are included by adding a generalized force term, Q sub I non-conservative, to the right-hand side of the Euler Lagrange equations. Furthermore, for velocity-dependent damping, we can introduce Rayleigh's dissipation function, R equals 1/2 b times Q sub I dot squared, modifying the equation to the total time derivative of the partial of L with respect to Q sub I dot minus the partial of L with respect to Q sub I plus the partial of R with respect to Q sub I equals 0. This ensures that even in dissipative systems, equations of motion can be derived without returning to vector force balances. To recap Part 3, D'Alembert's principle eliminates unknown constraint forces by projecting motion onto virtual displacements. Hamilton's principle asserts that nature selects trajectories where the action integral S is stationary. The resulting Euler Lagrange equations allow us to derive exact equations of motion purely from scalar kinetic and potential energies. Now that we know how paths are determined in configuration space, what happens when we shift our perspective from velocity space to momentum space? In Part 4, we will explore what is actually Hamiltonian dynamics and discover the rich geometric architecture of phase space. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in Part 4.